Some of you hardcore creepypasta fans will remember the Willow Men. The quiet, brutal lawkeepers of an unnamed town, dealing out the harshest of punishments, making the wrongdoers into a meal for hungry, skin-colored willow trees deep in the forest surrounding the town. Well, I know I'm in the same town as in the story. See, I just moved here after inheriting my great-aunt's estate, as I am her only remaining relative. The circumstances surrounding her death are hazy at best. Supposedly she just disappeared from her home, never to return. I received the will she had already written because she was growing old and frail, from the town hall through the mail. When I realized that she had left me her house, I took a weekend to visit the place, to see what it was like. Let me tell you, that 2-story house was 10 times better than my dingy little apartment. So I took it, sacrificing only an extra 10 minutes of driving to work in the morning. After about a week, I started to notice the fact the town had absolutely no law enforcement, and was completely surrounded by dense woodland. I started to remember the story of the Willow Men after the local paper announced another disappearance. Some low-life thug from the next town over breaking into houses disappeared, leaving only his Glock and a shred of his t-shirt behind. The law from the next town over didn't even come to investigate. Neither did the state troopers. Something's wrong with this town. That brings me to why I'm writing this blog. Everyone in town refuses to speak of any odd disappearances around town, or the fact that law enforcement officials steer clear of the place. So I had to look elsewhere for information. After several months of searching the web, I found someone willing to tell me about their encounter with the Willow Men. One Ryan Nicholas. He lives out of town, so our first interview is scheduled for tomorrow. More as it develops. Okay guys, the interview went very well. Turns out Ryan was part of the National Guard responding to a disaster that happened involving the town's power plant. Info is still classified, so that's all I can say about it. Sorry. And during the time he was stationed in town, he apparently encountered the Willow Men. This surprised me as he did not have the demeanor of an army man. He was neurotic, jumpy and constantly looking over his shoulder. Here's the audio file of the first interview. Okay, looks like we're ready to start.
Look, can we make this quick? I don't feel comfortable being back here in town. They're watching me.
Okay, I'll be as quick as I can. So, Mr.
Ryan.
Right. What can you tell me about your time being stationed here?
Well, most information regarding the incident is classified, but here's what I can tell you. There was an explosion at the power plant that was heard from the next town over. Upon investigation, it was found that nuclear power is being used inside of the plant, so they sent us to evacuate the civilians.
I see. Does anyone know what caused the explosion?
They said it was caused by a worker accidentally letting a reactor overheat, but they really have no idea what caused it.
Right. And you say strange things happened during your time being stationed here.
Strange? Try absolutely unexplainable.
What happened?
The first strange thing that happened about 3 hours into the evacuation process, we loaded the civvies onto a truck and had them taken somewhere away from the radiation level, but as we did, we would hear whispers coming from our left and right, jumping from side to side. When we look at the people, their mouths were silent.
Do you have any idea what caused this phenomena?
Phenomena? It was those things up in the trees just out of our sight.
Just calm down, Ryan. What happened after everyone was evacuated?
Well, we were headed back to base for further orders when we got a call that Dennis was missing.
Dennis? Who's Dennis?
He was part of the group guarding the perimeter of the plant, specifically the south end facing the woods. Most of us thought he went off to the woods for a smoke break, but when he didn't come back by the time we got back to base, Cap sent our group before, including myself, to go and find him. Now, I had always been afraid of the woods as a kid. Ma used to tell me stories about goblins that ate little children that misbehaved, and later about psycho meth heads out in the woods completely out of their minds looking for somebody to kill.
How do you know Dennis would be in the woods and not elsewhere?
I'd known Dennis since he was a kid. Dennis was one of those kids people say was a born adventurer. Even back in ROTC, he was known for exploring the outskirts of school the second the instructor turned his back. They'd always find him up a tree or in a cave, or sticking his hand in a snake hole, only to be rushed to the ER because the idiot got bit by the rattler living in the hole.
I see. So, tell me what happened next.
Well, we did what Sarge told us to, which was search for Dennis and bring him back, so we went looking. I always hated the forest because of the stories Ma told me, and even with an M4 strapped to my back, I still felt nervous. Those whispers came back about 10 minutes into the search. This time I swear I saw things peeking out from behind the trees. I shot at them several times, startling my entire squad into a defensive stance several times. Whatever was behind those trees, they weren't human. They were something else, something sinister.
Did you ever find Dennis?
We found his dog tags hanging from a tree closest to the plant after abandoning the search. These Willow Men, or whatever you call it, they were toying with us. They even left his cigarette smoking by a stray fire from some debris. When I told Sarge, he thought I had been exposed to the smoke for too long and sent me home.
Is there anything else you can tell me about your experience?
Well, I was in the med tent. I overheard Sarge saying something. It still rings in my head. I remember it word for word.
What did he say?
Craziest thing I've ever seen, Corporal. The body was there in the building, and when I blinked, the thing was gone. And those whispers, you haven't heard them? Something's not right. The eggheads are saying it's an accident, but someone or something caused this to happen. It's an omen, I'm telling you, Corporal. We gotta get out of here ASAP, or what happened to Dennis is gonna happen to us.
Interesting. Is there anyone you can put me in contact with that can tell me more about this incident?
I have a friend who was a firefighter on scene of the plant. I'll email you his contact info. The whispers are getting closer. I gotta get out of here.
Thank you for your help, Mr. Well, I guess that ends interview 1. Ryan did keep his word. He indeed sent me contact info to the former firefighter Todd Richards. I will be contacting him as soon as possible for an interview. I've been starting to hear those whispers that Ryan spoke about around town, especially around the tree line. Oh, and I checked public records for mention of this disaster at the plant. It was officially ruled an accident, just like Ryan said. I'll be looking into this fire as much as I can in the coming weeks. I'll be updating as soon as I find something relevant. Also, I did some research on my great aunt. She was something of a saint among the townspeople. She spent all her time at the homeless shelter as a cook, always making sure that those less fortunate had enough to eat. Not exactly the person you'd think the Willow Men would go after. Makes me wonder more and more what happened to her. More as it develops. Signed, Benjamin Harris. P.S. I just got through listening to the audio file. I can hear a faint, distant whispering, barely audible above the static. I'm starting to find things in my house that weren't there. Last night I found a knife under my pillow, and found a bowl of cereal on my kitchen table today. I'm getting scared. I'm definitely locking the doors at night. But something's getting in anyway. I have to keep looking into this. For my aunt, if not for myself.